Listen, with all these dating apps to choose from and dating coaches running wild across the internet giving you advice on 3 steps to get the girl or how to know if he's really into you, it can be really confusing to know what you should actually look for in a potential future spouse. But after 26 years of marriage and a decade counseling thousands of couples, today I want to present to you what I believe to be 2 non-negotiables. Do not compromise. Do not even think about missing on these when you're looking for a future spouse. That's what we're going to talk about today right here on Relationshots. Welcome to Relationshots. My name's Eric Wooten. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationships. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. Now, you've probably heard the saying, hindsight is 20/20, which simply means that what was not obvious at the time when reflecting back on it has now become clearer and more obvious than it was when you made the choice. Now, if you'd have asked me 20 years ago what to look for in a future spouse, I probably would have told you, like, if they're cool and they're hot, give it a shot. But 26 years into marriage now and having counseled countless couples who are either struggling in their marriage or trying to restore a marriage, I've discovered there's some essential qualities that you actually do want to look for in a potential future spouse. Now, today I'm not going to give you 10 or 7 or even 5. I'm going to narrow it down to what I believe are 2 non-negotiables that if I was getting married today, these would be absolute qualities that I would not compromise on, that I would need to see in my future spouse. So here we go. Quality number 1, non-negotiable number 1, is that they serve others. What? You're like, that's it? Really? Listen, don't underestimate this quality. I'm telling you. Now, the problem with this one is we often look through it through our own lens and our own experiences with the person. So when I ask couples about this question, usually the guy or the girl will tell me about all the great things the other person does for them. You know, he makes me dinner. He takes me out. He's so good to me. He sent flowers to work. Or he'll say, oh yeah, she treats me like a king. You know what? She sent my favorite food to work at lunchtime and I didn't even ask. One time I came out of work and she had a mobile car detailing service that had taken care of my car. Now, don't mistake, those are great things. I think we all want those things. But those are not exactly what I'm talking about. The problem with those things are they're serving you because they're expecting some kind of reciprocation or because you're serving them as well. So when I say the non-negotiable is they serve others, I mean they serve others who can't do anything for them. Think about the drive-through employee. Think about the waiter at the restaurant. Do they regularly serve at church or a nonprofit or a soup kitchen? Do they regularly serve their neighbors, their friends, their family members with no expectation that anything would ever be done in return? That doesn't mean that they serve and then they complain because the other person doesn't serve them back. Why is this so important? This is important because how they serve others who can do nothing for them will be a great indicator of how they serve you in the marriage when they're in a season where they're just not feeling you. You know, when they're in a season where you're not meeting all the needs that they expect or the things that they want from you and they're a little bit salty about it. If it's a character trait, they'll continue to serve you anyway. If it's not, then you're going to get basically what you give. This is going to be a contractual relationship where they go, well, you're not doing it for me, so you know what? I'm not doing it for you. So when you think about this character quality, do not think about it in terms of how they serve you right now because they're trying to win you over. They're trying to woo you. Or you make them feel so good about the relationship, they just love doing anything. I want to know if this is something they regularly do in their life, serving people who can do nothing for them. Then it's a character trait, and that's something that will serve you well for the rest of your marriage. So non-negotiable number 1 is that they regularly serve others. Non-negotiable number 2 is they are accountable to others. Now, this may be the most important character trait when you're looking at a future spouse. There is nothing more frustrating in a relationship than when you have a spouse who is not accountable to anybody else in their life. Now, this is another area where we often make the mistake of believing because they have a lot of friends, they have a lot of accountability. You can have friends, you can have family members, you can have other people in your life and still make the decision that you don't want to be held accountable by them when they try to call you on something that you're not doing well and try to call you into account on it. That's what really determines if they're accountable or they're not accountable. So when you're looking for this in a future spouse, here's what I would do. I would say, is there anybody that you are fully accountable to who, if you get out of line behaviorally, if your behavior is hurting somebody, that they can call you out and you'll actually respond and surrender to what they're calling you to. And if they give you some names, what I do next is I want to go talk to these people and say, give me a time when so-and-so was accountable to you. What happened? How did you present it? And how did they respond? And then listen. They should be able to give you at least one or two times when the person was a little off, they called them out on their behavior, and they responded to that call out, changed their behavior, and brought it back in line. Listen, you do not want to be your spouse's only accountability partner. I've had many people in my office coming for marriage counseling by themselves. Their spouse wouldn't come in for counseling. So at some point in the conversation, after I hear what's going on, I'm always going to ask the question, is there anybody else in their life that has some relational leverage that can call them into account when they have decided they don't want to be held accountable by you? And 90% of the time, the answer is no. And I'm telling you, there's no more frustrating place to be in a marriage than with a spouse who has made it clear that they're not going to be held accountable by you for the behavior that you're trying to call them into account on, and they don't have anybody outside of the marriage to step in and help control them or call them into account when their behavior is hurtful and not okay. You do not want to be stuck with that person in marriage. That's a hopeless situation and a situation where you will not be able to exact the change that you need to have happen for the marriage to thrive and succeed. So there's two non-negotiables. They serve others and they're accountable to at least a few people that I personally would not compromise on, would be absolutes if I was looking for a future spouse. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below and any other non-negotiables you might have when looking at a future spouse. And if you think this would be helpful to somebody you know, consider sharing it with a friend. I look forward to talking to you next time right here on Relationshots.